Really want to do this video because I feel like for me to do the other videos that I want to do and make series out of them, I feel like I have to do this video first, kind of as like a square one and starting point before I get to the other videos. So the title of the video is "What is lyricism in hip hop?" So lyricism is using many literary devices and making them to come up with creative ways to how you say your words in rap. Here's the interesting thing about lyricism. Lyricism, as how I see it, this is how I see it. Lyricism can lyricism is used in writing, but it's not really called lyricism. They're just called literary devices. But these literary devices come over to rap and form what we call lyricism. I mean, really, there's so many literary devices. There's up to like 20. But in rap, there's really only things used like similes, metaphors, puns, wordplay, rhyme, alliteration, multisyllables. Those are what is consisted of lyricism. Now, to some people, lyricism also includes storytelling or content. I swing both ways sometimes on that. Sometimes I'm a person who thinks that they count. Sometimes I'm like someone who thinks, nah, not really. Really, it just depends on the day. I don't know. I have a hard time depending on I have a hard time really sticking to what I believe if storytelling or, content is part of lyricism. But for the time being, I'm just going to list these ones: similes, metaphors, puns, punchlines, wordplay, play on words, rhyme scheme, entendres, alliteration, and multisyllables. Now, to other people, some of these things kind of are one and the same. Here's the thing though, this video is going to be more about my view of what I think lyricism is, and I'm going to pinpoint also why certain elements really are not the same. So hopefully through this video, maybe you agree with me, maybe you don't agree with me. If so, please leave a comment and tell me why. And maybe if you don't know anything about lyricism, you can walk away learning something new as I go through this. So yeah, I'm not gonna go through similes, metaphors, and rhyme scheme and punchlines, because similes and metaphors and punchlines, I'm sure you guys know. Rhyme and rhyme scheme, I'm not gonna do because there's so much to rhyme and rhyme scheme that I might make an entire other video on that. So really, I'm only gonna focus on puns, wordplay, play on words, entendres, alliteration, and that's it. And multisyllables also is gonna be part of the rhyme video, so I'm not gonna go over that. So let's go into the first thing that I want to cover, which is alliteration. So what is alliteration? The occurrence of the same letter or sound at the beginning of an adjacent or closely connected word. This is not to be confused with the other two elements such as assonance and consonance. Assonance is recurring vowels in the middle of the word that appears a lot, and consonant is pretty much what alliteration is, but the key difference they appear in the middle or end of the word. So think of it like pretty much alliteration is an example of something we've all said with tongue twisters like seashells by the seashore, or the one Peter picked a pipe of peppers, something like that. In rap, a pretty famous one and a very classic example is Tupac's song "If I Die Tonight." With the opening bars, you know, pussy and papers, poetry, power and pistols, picturing pitiful punk. You follow another one, please puffing. Like you hear the P vowel, and that's what alliteration is. A lot of rappers use this. Pac used this. Other rappers. I think Eminem. He's done this. Nas. Modern rappers. I would say like I think Kendrick. Kendrick does this a lot. He does a lot of alliterations. So yeah, alliterations, it's kind of fairly simple. Just, kind of have something like that. Like, have a vowel or sound that appears repetitively, but very close to each other. You know what I mean? The next one is wordplay and play on words. Now, this might be controversial because some people see them as the same. I don't. The reason why I don't is because I see wordplay more as like a play and based in idioms and phrases and sayings, stuff like that. You know what I mean? It's mainly playing with your words and playing with terms and phrases. It's not always that, it can be others. But like I said, there's so much to wordplay that I can make a whole video about that. And I might make a video about that. But for now, I can't really get into all of it. But basically, to sum it up on some of the points and beginning points is that it plays on idioms, phrases, all that stuff. On the words you say as well. It's not all about just phrases and idioms. It's also just about the words you say and you playing off that word. An example would be like Jeezy's here saying, "You niggas want wordplay, but I'm about bird play. First of the month, yeah, we call that bird day." Obviously, playing off the word bird play. Um, as you know, bird and talk like that in slang is used for drugs. And Jeezy, he kind of plays off, that word of bird and bird play to reference both, a surface level of talking about birds, but also talking about drugs. And that's what wordplay is playing off the words you said and making another meaning to where it can have multiple meanings and everything like that. Play on words is more about playing on the homonyms of words and playing on words that can sound the same as something sound the same as something you said. Like one of the most famous examples of play on words in rap is rappers like to use blasphemy to try to play on that double meaning of sounding like they said blasphemy, like blast, like gun, like blast for me, and playing on the word blasphemy. That's what rappers like to always play with when they try to get in their lyrical bag. They also like to use paradise. I'm pretty sure you can, paradise, like a paradise, when you're playing dice, and paradise like heaven or something. So it's kind of like that. It's really play on homonyms. A good example would be when Jay-Z on Flux Capacitor, which is a song from Jay Electronica's album, he says, "You backstabbers gonna bring the OJ." So that's pretty obvious right there. He plays on three meanings right here. He plays off, the OJ, which is like, saying the OJ, like Jay in his history was stabbing if you know your hip hop history. OJ Simpson, I'm pretty sure everyone knows that story. And OJ the band, the group, singing group. So yeah, that's what play on words is. It's really more of a play on the words and the homonyms and stuff. Like I said, some people see these two elements as the same. I don't. I think they're kind of different. One's a bit more rooted in the words and stuff, like idioms and stuff, and one's more rooted and a little bit more limited to where you have to abide more by homonym and the sayings of how the words sound and stuff like that, rather than on an idiom or word. Like how I see it, wordplay is more accessible, whereas play on words you kind of have to be more careful. Because wordplay you can happen anytime, because you can just play on whatever word you said prior and play on it. Whereas play on words, you really have to set the words in a certain way for that play on words to take into effect. So yeah, I'll just go on to the next one, which is puns. Puns is another thing that many people don't bring up because they associate it as just punchlines and they associate it as either just wordplay. Now, granted, it is a form of wordplay, but it's not. It is a form of wordplay, but it still kind of stands out by itself. I mean, that's kind of how it is. One person on Reddit, he posted a good post to someone's question about what is the difference between puns and wordplay, and he said a pun is specifically a joke made using the multiple meanings of a word or explaining that some words with different meanings sound the same. A play on words is much more broad as an exercise of wit, where words are the main focus. It encompasses puns as well as double meaning entendres. I mean, I agree with him. Granted, I don't fully agree with him because he says a play on words to, as being synonymous with wordplay. Obviously, as I just said, I don't see them the same, but I digress. The point is, I do agree with him that puns and wordplay, even though puns is a part of wordplay, it's not the same. It's kind of like poetry and I guess you can say music, where, yeah, music has poetry, but that doesn't mean poetry is music. Might be a bad example, but hey, that's the first thing I can. That's how I see it. That's how I see it, and that's why I think it's different. So, how I see puns is that puns are a bit more simpler and quicker when it comes to a more witty, double meaning type device. Whereas wordplay, you kind of set up, play on words is kind of like how you organize the words and how they sound out to sound like a homonym for another word or phrase. Puns are a little bit more simpler and quicker is how I see it. That's how I observed puns, is that they tend to be a very simple, quick line. They're not always like that, but from what I've seen, they seem to be. There's not a lot of puns done in rap because, like I said, a lot of rappers kind of just associate them with punchlines. But if there's one pun I can use as an example is, again, I might have to use Tupac here, is his song Blasphemy, where he says, "Have you ever seen a crackhead that's eternal fire?" Uh, that's how I see it. It's a pun, and obviously it has double meaning to, point out that the fact that the crackhead, you know, due to being a crackhead and having his mind all fried up, he's internally, in a state of torture, which is, that's internal fire. And also pointing at the fact that how he looks, it looks like, he went through eternal fire. So it's a line that paints at, pokes at the two references of both his mind and his body. And really, that's all I can really find. Like I said, not a lot of rappers use puns because a lot kind of see them as punchlines. Um, the only rapper I can think of off the top that really uses puns like that is Lupe. And I would have used Lupe, but a lot of Lupe's kind of lines they kind of fluctuate close to wordplay. You know what I mean? I mean, not fluctuate to wordplay, but I don't want to use those lines because I might contradict myself. So this was kind of like the only line I could really bring reference to because not a lot of rappers use puns like that. Like I said, puns are kind of seen as punchlines. Next one is entendres. So entendres are pretty much how I see it as like the end results of when you use any of these literary devices outside of alliterations that I just explained. But entendres kind of stand out by themselves, in my opinion, because really the main point of entendres is ambiguity. Ambiguity, sorry. And so in being ambiguous, entendres tend to be hard to catch. I mean, with wordplay, you can catch wordplay. That's how I feel. That's my opinion. In my opinion, wordplay is you can catch it. Same with play on words, you can kind of catch it. You know what I mean? Entendres can kind of be ambiguous, and not only that, they can kind of be hard to tell. But still, the main point of them is again ambiguous and also innuendos. Um, a good example of innuendo would be, pussy. People like to say, like when people like to make up little phrases and stuff about pussy and, getting vagina and stuff, getting, all that stuff. They like to use pussy, which is like a innuendo. But I guess now that wouldn't be the case because, it's been used so much. I mean, everyone says it. I say it. You probably watching the video say it. So it's to the point where now it's not even really ambiguous. It's kind of just, Um, but yeah, that's basically what entendres is. It's kind of like using innuendos and stuff to kind of have multiple meaning. On the surface, you get the gist of it, but there's a deeper meaning behind it. Kind of like laying the pipe, stuff like that. And a lot of times entendres were used for stuff like that, sex innuendos and stuff like that. So yeah. So that's kind of the end of the video. I would go into other devices, but again, a lot of those other devices are really more used for writing. They're not really used for rap. Rap mainly uses these type of devices as well as the ones I excluded and those devices that I'll be making another video on, which is about rhyme and rhyme scheme and multisyllables. Those are the main devices. There's no devices there's no rappers using the devices of like onomatopoeia. you know, I mean onomatopoeia. I mean, I guess if you could count onomatopoeia, the closest thing in rap is like ad libs. That's the only thing. But that's not really a device rappers use or measure or is counted on in like amongst hip hop fans, rap, that stuff. These are the main devices. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Next video, I'll probably do one about rhyme, rhyme scheme, internal rhyme, multi-syllables, because I notice a lot of people like to confuse the two between internal rhyme and multi-syllables. So I kind of want to draw the distinction between those two things. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching the video. Thanks for hearing me talk and jibber jabber. And yeah, take care.